Hi guys, welcome to my channel Mauritius with Love. Today I'm going to react to a Marine who single-handedly cleared an enemy trench during the invasion of Iraq. This will be interesting. I've never watched this before, so I'll get into it before I start making comments.
Commander Brian Shantosh had been placed in charge of Weapons Company 3rd Battalion 5th Marines 1st Marines Division. Only 3 years earlier, Shantosh had been living the college life in Rhode Island, studying mechanical engineering. But duty called, and now he was half a world away, with his men relying on him. Soon, they'd be fighting for their lives. It was March 25th when Shantosh's battalion was approaching Baghdad. Suddenly, they came under heavy enemy fire. It was an ambush. The attack had been highly organized. They were hit from all sides by mortars, rocket-propelled grenades, and a constant hail of bullets from automatic weapons. The driver in the Humvee next to him was killed. The only chance was to keep moving forward and hope their vehicle's armor could hold out. But as the unit moved down the road, Shantosh saw a horrible sight. Their way was blocked by enemy tanks. They were in a kill zone with no way out. Staying put would get them killed. Turning back would get them killed. First Lieutenant.
So what do you guys in that situation? He says, if you stay put, you get killed. You turn back, you get killed. And in that moment of time, under these circumstances, what do you do? I couldn't think.
Shantosh knew they'd have to take the enemy head-on. He motioned to his driver to move through a narrow breach, knowing this would expose them. The vehicle came under immediate machine gun fire but held out, giving Shantosh the chance to plan his own attack. As they charged straight ahead toward the enemy, Shantosh's machine gunner was able to get off a burst of ammo and take out the enemy gunner. But the attack was just beginning. The car drove into the enemy trench, but there was no way to see where the enemy was hiding from there, and they were still under heavy fire. The trench would have to be cleared personally, and Shantosh was not the kind to order a subordinate to do something he wouldn't do himself. Packing his service rifle in a 9mm pistol, he exited his vehicle and started firing, taking out every enemy he saw.
That is a pure act of bravery for you to just think, I'm going to get out and do this.
He dodged death multiple times and made every kill. He was backed up by several of his men, and when his own weapon jammed, he traded with Lance Corporal Robert Kernan and kept his place at the front of the assault. There was only one problem. He was soon out of ammo. He only had seconds to make a move before an enemy found him a sitting duck. But there was another source of ammo on the field. In the hands of the enemies he had just gunned down. He charged into enemy territory and grabbed a rifle from the ground, using it to return fire. When that one ran out of ammo, he did it again, narrowly dodging enemy fire and continuing to take out enemy forces. But he didn't have the manpower to turn the tide of the battle. But that opportunity was about to present itself. Rifles and machine guns weren't the only weapons the Iraqi soldiers had hit the Americans with. There were also the powerful rocket launchers. And when Shantosh had shot one of their wielders, that game-changing weapon had become available. One of Shantosh's Marines who had joined him in the fight found one on the ground and was smart enough to turn it over to his relentless commanding officer. Problem was, none of them knew how to use it. They fiddled with it, and Shantosh pointed it in the right direction.
That's an act of bravery as well. And in that moment, you don't know, like, it's an enemy rifle and you don't know how to work it or whatever it was. And for you to try and quickly figure out how it is so you can use it, that is bravery.
And successfully unleashed an explosive ball of fire. He was now able to deliver powerful missiles directly to the enemy, and it made all the difference. But there was still a long way to go. The trench was over 600 feet long, and the enemies could be anywhere. One wrong move could spell death for Shantosh and his men, so he led them slowly as he kept an eye out for any sign of hostile movement. When they saw an enemy, they sprung into action. The rocket launchers soon ran out of ammo, and Shantosh was forced to use stray rounds of unused ammo he found on the ground, using them to carefully take out enemies, making every bullet count. The enemy might have been on their home turf, but Marines are trained to fight on any turf. And by the time they were done, they had cleared more than 600 feet of trench and eliminated more than 20 enemy soldiers in one of the greatest charges in military history. And they had escaped the kill zone with most of their men. It was a stunning act of heroism, but when Shantosh was questioned about his actions, he was humble, instead saying the men with him were the ones who saved his life. While he led the charge, it was their relentless fighting that let him succeed. Without them, he would have been a cautionary tale rather than a victorious hero. To the career military man, it was just another day in the trenches, and he simply did his job by leading his men out of safety. The United States military disagreed with his humility. It wouldn't be long before word of Shantosh's heroic feat spread, and while it didn't get the attention of other military feats like those of Dakota Meyer and Salvatore Giunta, the people in charge noticed. They moved quickly to award him the Navy Cross, the second highest honor possible for sailors and Marines, only second to the Medal of Honor. Awarded for extraordinary heroism in combat against an armed enemy force, the citation praised him for his leadership, courage, and devotion to his duty. Brian Shantosh had earned a great honor, but he wasn't done yet. The war war in Iraq was far from over, and a year after his heroic feat in the trenches, Chantosh would be deployed once again, now as a captain. This time he would be taking part in one of the biggest operations of the war, the Second Battle of Fallujah, better known as Operation Phantom Fury. By this point, Saddam had fallen and the United States were fighting alongside British forces and the Iraqi interim government against an army of militants. The combat was dense, urban, and highly dangerous. But Brian Chantosh was no stranger to dangerous close-quarter combat. Chantosh led a group of 158 Marines into the urban center, where they would come under fire from guerrillas at any time. Because of the dense quarters, this would turn out to be the bloodiest battle of the entire war for the coalition forces, with over 100 soldiers being lost, and over 1,000 insurgents being killed, and 1,500 being captured. Complicating things, the city was full of civilians caught in the middle of the combat, and it was often difficult to judge who was a civilian and who was a gunman in plainclothes. This led to many close calls and many tragic mistakes. But there was one exception to the high casualty rate. Chantosh never had the need to pull off another stunning feat, like his charge of the trench on the road to Baghdad, but he still gained a reputation as one of the finest commanding officers on the ground in Operation Phantom Fury. His platoon had one of the best rates of survival of any on the ground, with 155 of the 158 surviving the mission and only 25 of the survivors suffering injuries. He even got profiled on a Fox News documentary about the war titled Breaking Point: Company of Heroes while live in the field. It would be a second act of heroism for a military man who was never comfortable with the title of hero. Once again, the military disagreed and awarded him 2 Bronze Stars for his leadership during Operation Phantom Fury. Chantosh would eventually retire after 20 years in the Marine Corps, but he wasn't resting yet. The warrior would find a host of interesting passions during and after his service. Being a Marine meant you had to be a fit and trained athlete, so it wasn't a surprise when he signed up for the 2009 CrossFit Games and came second in the Southern California regional qualifiers. But even out of combat, he kept serving. After his second deployment, Chantosh became an instructor, serving as the 8th company officer at the United States Naval Academy and helping to create the next batch of warriors. He even worked with the Naval Academy's women's ice hockey team as their military liaison. While other war heroes chose to make the most of their sudden fame, writing books and even having movies based around their feats, Chantosh was never comfortable with the spotlight.
That led his fellow Marines to come forward and tell their tales of his heroism, including his machine gunner on that fateful trench battle,
Thomas Franklin. And some people started asking the question, does Brian Chantosh have all the honors he deserves? One congressman said no, and in 2019, Rep. Tom Reed of New York dug up the heroic feats of Brian Chantosh from 16 years earlier and proposed that he should get the highest honor available, the Medal of Honor.
What do you think, guys? Does he deserve it? I think it does. Let's see if he gets it.
While it was longer wait than usual for Medal of Honor recipients, some war heroes have waited many decades before they were recognized. While there's been no movement on the bill for Chantosh yet, he's sure to have a long list of people testifying to his worthiness, starting with every Marine he led through that trench. For another heroic one-man show.
Oh, it didn't say whether he got it or not. I think it would be good if he gets it because of what he's done. What do you think, guys? I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you at the next one. Good night.